All right, joining me once again here on the Matthew Filipowicz Show is my good buddy Chris Faraone. Chris is an independent journalist. He is the author of the book 99 Nights with the 99%, as well as the upcoming book I Killed Andrew Breitbart, all of which you can find at righttopower.net. You can also follow him on Twitter at Faraone. Chris, buddy, thank you so much for being on the show again.
Oh, yeah, we're going to have a good time.
Absolutely. So, brother, last week here in Boston, we finally had our mayoral primary to replace Mayor Tom Menino. The results were sort of predictable, but somewhat interesting. Tell us about the results and what comes next.
Yeah, I mean, well, so there were 12 candidates, of course. So really, yeah, they were somewhat predictable, but there could have been, any sort of combination of two finalists to make it through the preliminary. The two who did win were Marty Walsh, who is from the neighborhood called Dorchester. He is a current state representative and a former union worker himself, former labor leader, and still very, heavily associated with organized labor and trade unions. The other is John Connolly, who is from West Roxbury. He's a current Boston city councilor at large. We have 4 at-large councilors in Boston, and John Connolly's been a top vote getter in the past 2 elections. So, he's definitely a contender who knows the city landscape well. And, as far as this being predictable, yeah, these two had they were two with some of the biggest war chests. There was also Dan Connolly, another Connolly, but spelled Conley. He is the current district attorney and one evil son of a bitch. And he did not make it through, and he had a lot of money.
Yeah.
Really, and then there was Charlotte Golar-Ritchie, who is the only female candidate of all 12. She has formerly worked under Mayor Tom Menino's administration. She's also a former state representative, lots of nonprofit experience, African-American woman, a lot of progressive backing. She came in third, and, this was really surprising. She had not a particularly good campaign, and this kind of threw a lot of people for a loop. So, even though she wasn't a finalist, it was the unpredictability that did occur, was out of her camp for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, so the first thing I remember the last time we talked, the big thing that you were stressing is that the most important thing was to not let Dan Connolly win. That was like for progressives, he was the worst of the worst, and the rest of them each have certain issues, but above and beyond, he was a bad friggin' dude. And the good news is Connolly did make it to the runoff, but it's not Dan Connolly, it's John Connolly.
Right. And I'll just stress that Dan Connolly, this was not a personal vendetta. As district attorney, he's run a pretty despicable office as far as I'm concerned. His office which investigates police officers when in the event that they shoot and or kill suspects. They have never found a police officer guilty or they've never found any sort of foul play in the shooting of an unarmed black suspect. So this is just that's one of many things. He's also really kind of stripped the public defenders of a lot of anyway, you know what? It doesn't matter. Dan Connolly's out of there.
Exactly.
Anyway, I'm all bent up now. I'm trying to think of the many attacks that I have laid into him. But anyway, basically, right now it
doesn't matter because he's gone.
He's gone. He's still district attorney, so we're still kind of out of luck there. But
right.
Anywho, so moving on. Right now, I'm going to have to say for the progressive crowd, Marty Walsh is probably their guy. He is. As far as his personal history, he's got a lot of, he's a recovering alcoholic for 18 years. He's got a lot of recovery people out. At the polls, he had about 3,000 people from organized labor working the streets of Boston. It was a pretty impressive feat. So I think a lot of this race is going to come down to really labor versus anti-labor. And John Connolly of West Roxbury, who already certainly has a campaign war chest full of corporate bucks, including, name your big disgusting bank. There are executives from that bank coughing money into his account. He's going to be representing really the other side of that argument for sure.
Well, so let's really get into some. We have time here, so let's get into some of the real details. Let's start with Connolly because I guess he's again. It seems like I think progressives would have preferred maybe Golaricci or Arroyo or some of the other candidates even over Marty Walsh. But again, I sort of do think that this is sort of between the two. There are some very clear contrasts. So let's dig into Connolly. What are some of Connolly's ties? I know last time you were on, you were talking about how he's very much, as far as education goes, very much into charter schools and stuff like that. So let's get into some of the reasons why Connolly would be a less good choice over Marty Walsh.
Yeah, so John Connolly has the support of Stand for Children. For those who he's billed himself as the education mayor. He himself worked for, I believe, 3 years in a charter school in New York City. He's one of these kind of young optimists who, think that they could change schools by, simply lengthening the school day, putting forth a number of measures, most notably, crushing the teachers union. What we're looking at in Boston, if John Connolly becomes mayor, is what's going on in Chicago under Rahm Emanuel, what's happening in Philadelphia, really the eroding of the public school system, the handing over of dollars to create a handful of lab and charter schools at the expense of the bigger system. Stand for Children bills itself as a nonprofit. It is a nonprofit. Bills itself as a education reform outfit. It's based out of Portland, Oregon. What it really is a front for the likes of Walmart and Bain Capital, both of which have a number of executives and foundation arms that contribute to Stand for Children. And what they really do is they move in to really knock the unions out of place so that, big city mayors, someone like a John Connolly would be in Boston, would have way more authority over the school system. Teachers, we see the union, have less and less teeth as far as, what it takes for them to strike. Let me see, how much of a call they have over their own evaluations, over student evaluations. These are the kind of things we see that seem to erode under administrations that are backed by big corporate education reform groups like Stand for Children.